following announcement has been paid for by the
Mark Order. Welcome to the Elite Mark Order podcast, where we talk about all things AEW related, and sometimes we even review Dynamite. I've got a PhD in THC. I'm the Doctor of Pod Cosmic Scott, and I'm joined by my partner and co-host who did not get released from WWE today, and who I hope will never go away, JayV.
There it is, another great intro by Scott. I just finished up after spilling a drink on my desk. I got a bunch of shit wet, so I'm still mentally recovering from that. But I'm gonna give this a go. I'm gonna give us a good podcast today. So let's just kill this episode.
We're gonna trudge on. Hopefully, you've had a couple of Jamesons or whatever your drink of choice is tonight. Had a couple of smokes, whatever it is you do, and you join us and have a good time. Jay, we have a lot of news. What do you want to start with? Obviously, it's super important to talk about things like Eddie Kingston winning the ROH title. I'm so glad to see. Eddie deserves every fucking accolade. That match was amazing. I want to talk about that, but what else maybe is on your mind? Anything maybe that's going on in the news?
I mean, Eddie finally embraced the kitten. Yeah. And came through and got the biggest win of his career. And he also did a tribute to one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, who I met a week ago, Toshiaki Kawada. So I'll have plenty to say about that and Kawada's influence on this match, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And then other than that, yeah, there's a ton of shit going on. Rampage is actually on right now. I haven't seen any spoilers, but it looks like a really good 2-hour show. So I'm looking forward to watching that. I might watch it tonight, or I might wait until tomorrow. It really depends on how long things go. So that's where I am right now.
Tony put some real effort into Rampage. He basically extended it out so that Grand Slam was a 4-hour plus. I assume there were dark matches of some sort. So, ROH tapings, whatever. So it was a pretty extensive show. It was a pretty long show. I assume if they ever get their streaming deal going with Max, that's going to be part of their rotation. It's going to be part of their, quote, pay-per-view schedule, or premium live event, or whatever terminology they decide to go with.
Yeah, I agree. Grand Slam was a proof of concept for another pay-per-view. We just had 2 pay-per-views back-to-back, not even a month ago. And but this show felt like a pay-per-view. This show was awesome. Once again, I hated the build. I did not care for the build too much, because some of my favorites weren't featured, and I didn't think the card was that strong. But the 2 matches that I was looking forward to were both outstanding, some of the better matches I've seen. So the show delivered, and we'll see if Rampage can make this look like it is a legit pay-per-view. So, yeah, good show from what I've seen of it so far.
Yeah, when it comes to Dynamite, they have certain expectations. We talk about 2021 all the time. They were fucking on fire. Grand Slam was things like Danielson versus Omega. You've listed some of the statistics in your conversation with Robert in the chat room. And I thought it was fascinating, some of the stuff you were bringing up about the ratings and audience size and things of that nature. But you have to remember that there was such a huge momentum behind Danielson showing up. That was a big pop in the ratings, along with Omega being a really good draw. I think there was a combination of things, and you can't put the ratings bump for that particular year on any one shoulder. There were a lot of great people who had just showed up, and Arthur Ashe was really a showcase for Danielson. Wasn't it their 1-hour match that they had at Arthur Ashe?
It was a half hour, and it was the first Grand Slam was 2 years ago. It was Kenny versus Danielson in the main event, and that was a dream match of epic proportions. Yeah. That even if people who don't like Kenny were excited about this match, because they and of course those people said that Danielson dragged. No one said it was a bad match, and then they said that Danielson dragged Omega to the best match of Omega's career, which I thought was hilarious. Since the match was fun, but it's definitely not top 5, not even close.
Well,
Kenny,
these are criticisms from people who don't like Omega. So, like, how much have you really watched if you don't like a person?
But what I like about it is they didn't say the match sucked because Omega was in it. They said the match was awesome, but only because Danielson carried Omega to his first good match, which was total bullshit.
Right.
So but at least they conceded that. Oh wait, it's like those fucktards that go out there and say, "Oh, the Young Bucks suck. The FTR is better," and then they say about the All In match when the Bucks fought FTR, they're like, "Oh, the Bucks suck, but FTR versus the Bucks was the greatest tag match I've ever seen," but the Bucks still suck. It's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about, man? I mean, if someone can go out and be a participant in the greatest match ever, how can they suck? But anyhow,
well, because they're dragged by their WWE quality opponents, because they're not WWE quality. Even though Kenny Omega turned down WWE before AEW, the Young Bucks actively worked there for a short while. Were offered like a 6-month trial. I mean, they were courted like hell, but no, they're not good enough for WWE. Well, then why would they want to be signed? Oh, just to hold them in their hip pocket. But never mind. Speaking of WWE, got to bring it up for everybody who's recently gone through yet another series of cuts. Our hearts go out to all of them. Support them, buy their merch, watch them on whatever new material they show up, be it Impact, be it AEW, be it GCW, be it any of the indie shows, whatever you go to and watch. If they show up, support them, because nobody deserves to get fired, even Aaliyah. I don't care what she did in the past. Nobody deserves to get fired. WWE deals with problem personnel every day. That's not a reason to fire a person because it was years ago. Something recent, that's different. Anyways, the fact is, they also let go, did somebody say in the chat room that they should or they did let go of, what's his name, the stoner?
I don't know who you're talking about.
The MMA fighter. Who just got arrested at JFK. Yeah, bro, what's his name? I forget his name.
Wow.
What can I say?
Jesus Christ.
See, you don't remember it, and you don't have the excuse of smoking.
But I can't.
It's
I'm
not.
Drinking.
Well, okay. Well, then fair enough. Then fair enough. I'll give you that. But yeah, no. What's his name? The stoner dude, RK Bro. The non-Randy Orton. Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle.
Thank you. Fucking neither of us could remember.
My Google search. Who is the bro guy in WWF?
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it comes back with Riddle's Instagram page. I'm like, thanks, dude.
And Super Gumby in the chat room. Thank you so much, Elite Mark Order member Super Gumby, also giving us the answer in the chat.
Right.
And speaking of, if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe. Press the like button. Hit the comment down below. Tell us your thoughts about anything you want to talk about. It helps with the algorithm. We appreciate it. We're on the drive to 1,000, so go ahead and click that subscribe. And, go to EliteMarkOrder.com. Click on Join the Discord. Maybe you could listen to some of the stunning commentary that we have, such as Krillin, who once again was right about Vince McMahon, who came back into full power and almost immediately got into trouble from the board of directors of TKO, who said, hey, guys, maybe he shouldn't be associated with our company. This dude's fucking radioactive. And so now he may be parting ways with TKO. For billions of dollars, of course. What the fuck is going on over there? What do you think? Any thoughts?
I don't know. As far as the allegations against Vince, who knows? Billionaires have a way of getting out of trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they do go a little too far, but I'm not sure if Vince is in trouble at this point. I know a lot of people hope he is, but that remains to be seen.
Even if he just gets let.
Know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough here to let him go. I mean, I don't know what else they would have found. yeah, I don't really have enough information on what's been going on to comment. So I'm going to hold off on making any further comments on Vince's status right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The fact is, when the board of directors has to start looking at someone, there's still probably a little bit of smoke, a little bit of fire. We'll see if anything comes from it, but anything that can get Vince out would be something like a corporate merger. Because now he's not the owner. He can't stop it if it happens this time. So, what do you think about picking up people like Ali, Mustafa Ali, and Dolph Ziggler of all people? Of course, we saw him on BTE, and then he gets let go. And then, of course, recent news, RVD's coming back because WWE doesn't want him at WrestleMania anymore.
Are you serious?
He got canceled. He got canceled for it, yeah.
Because he was on AEW. So
they didn't say why, but he's like, apparently I'm not booked at WrestleMania, I heard. I'm like, whatever, dude. That's hardly a surprise. And now he's back on AEW.
Yeah. Well,
why not?
He could become an active participant in AEW. I'm all for it. I like RVD. I always have.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. He struggled a little bit. I don't want to see him every single week, but I would love to see him every, 3 weeks come out.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be treated like Sting. He needs to be protected.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not as old as Sting, and he can do more than Sting can in the ring. But he's not going to go out and have like a 4-star singles match at this point. Age and the toll of doing what he did at such a high level for decades has caught up with him. But he can definitely come out and do a couple cool spots and pop the crowd. That's all he needs to do.
Right.
He shouldn't be like a threat to a title or anything like that.
Or a workhorse.
Just bring him out there and bring him out and have fun with him.
Yeah, exactly. And he is one of those that the crowd will respond to because he's beloved. He tag matches. Pair him up with somebody who, pair him up with the Acclaimed. I don't know. Just find somebody whose act he can just hang out with like Billy Gunn, and eventually they're going to get over because Rob Van Dam is that fucking popular. He can hang out, show him some good shit in the ring, help him work out, stay stretched. God knows he can stretch. And, just there's so much positive in the way that AEW deals with these older wrestlers, legend characters, as you were, legendary wrestlers, where they treat them not just respectful, but within their limits. Sometimes a little past them, but that's Sting's fault for wanting to do stupid shit because of Darby. Honestly, It's like you're going to tell Sting no. It's like, dude, you're 60 plus. If you honestly think you can pull this off, let's do it. It'll be fucking amazing. Instead, he crashes and burns, and it's still amazing, but he should never have done it. But that's hindsight. You can't force somebody. Trust me, I deal with a 97-year-old mother-in-law, and there is one thing I cannot do, and that is make her do anything. The older they get, the less you're ever going to get. You can ask them, you can convince them it's their idea, but you will never make them do anything. And I think Sting has earned that.
Right.
So let's actually talk about Dynamite then, because that is the show.
Let's talk about a couple of the other
please
WWE guys that could come over.
Yeah.
So we mentioned RVD coming over. I think Dolph Ziggler.
Oh yeah.
Or
here's the.
Mm-hmm. Nicky Nemeth, is that his name?
Nick Nemeth. Yeah, it was Nicky.
Nicky Nemeth. Yeah.
If you want to go that route, but so again, that's probably
Nick Nemeth and the Hunk. Ryan Nemeth. I'd love to see him come and team up. I don't know if Tony considers Ryan to be worthy of being on Dynamite. So I don't know. I mean, Ziggler just might come in without him. But I would love to see them team up because I do like Ryan. I do think he's pretty funny. And then the other is Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
I really want to see Ali come in. He's a really good wrestler. He can have some excellent matches. And I think, just from a diversity standpoint, to have a wrestler in that's Pakistani and Indian would be a good addition to the roster from that standpoint, because he can represent that area, and I'm all for it. I think he's really solid. I hated him when WWE was pushing him back in the day and he was going over Kenta, but I mean the guy's a really good worker, and he's had some really good matches. So I would like to see him in AEW.
He's earned respect, first of all.
Yeah.
He had a groundswell of support, the Free Ali movement, because people were legitimately behind him. He's young, he's exciting, he's chomping at the bit with a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove, he's got ideas. You're right about the Pakistani Indian heritage having that connection for the demographic, which is absolutely true. He's got that corporate synergy down, and that's great. And Tony's not likely to overlook it being Pakistani himself. So he's going to want to have that representation. Ali is amazing in the ring. He's a young guy. He's a small guy. So Tony will know how to book him. He's not over 250. And when you're talking to Dolph Ziggler, my God, not only is he a known factor who's safe in the ring, quality worker, multiple world time champion, the dude knows his shit. You don't have to hold his hand for promos. He can do his own promos because he's a comedian who's legitimately funny. And he could lift up his brother just like Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. We know Jeff Hardy's the charismatic one. He's the one who brought all the fans. Matt was the one who could do the promos. And I think there might be a similarity with Dolph. Dolph can just help bring up Ryan, because Ryan has never, ever gotten over and ever been anything but a jobber. His brother, Nick, which, by the way, Nick Nemeth, if he was in the Spirit Squad, I mean, come on. The entire Spirit Squad was beaten by one guy. What a terrible gimmick. Anyways, I bet he comes back with it. He should come back as the Spirit Man or something similar. Dolph would be fantastic. He will figure out how to get over. There's no question he's entertaining, and I bet he has great ideas for storylines. Those two absolutely should be signed as soon as Tony can. But there's another name that got released that I absolutely think should be brought in, and that's Shelton Benjamin. And I can't believe, once again, they brought him back and they don't know how to use him, because he's always been so good. But I guess.
So here's Shelton Benjamin is 48.
Wow. Okay.
And that doesn't surprise me at all. I thought he might have been 50, because it seems like he's been around.
He has, yeah.
If I look at his match statistics, he has 24 years of experience.
Yeah.
Now, just to jump back, Mustafa Ali has 20 years of experience, and he's 37. I thought he was younger. I would have guessed early 30s. Yeah. So he is late prime right now. So that is interesting. I think that kind of changes where I think he could, peak in AEW for Ali, but I still think he could have a good run. Benjamin and Ziggler was 43. I looked him up earlier today. Yeah. And I don't want to see Ziggler with a match every week. I don't want to see Ziggler main eventing in a pay-per-view. Good Lord, no. But I do think he can play a role in AEW. And hey, if he finds some stupid gimmick and gets hot like the Acclaimed or some of the other guys, then hey, push him. But let's let him get there. Don't cram him down our throats and use him every week if you're going to bring him in.
Again, much like, it's hard to call him older because I still see him as a very athletic. I look at him like Billy Gunn. He's gonna, if he stays in shape, he could be wrestling at 60 at top form, because he learned the WWE style of being very safe, and he's extremely safe in the ring. He's rarely been injured, and I don't think he's injured his opponents like in the ring, to my knowledge. So, there's no reason why you couldn't get behind him. Maybe he does get a world title run. Maybe it doesn't have to be long. Maybe he gets an international title run or a TNT title run. I wouldn't see an issue with that. I think the TNT title could easily become the former WWE title, where you get all these former champions who are holding the TNT title for whatever length of time, extended or not, but they're all ex-WWE title holders. That would kind of be funny to me, to be quite honest. As like their third tier title belt are people who used to hold the WWE top title. You know, just a little dig. Just a little wrestling dig for those of us who care about that kind of crap. There were a lot of other people released. I don't want to go over all of them because it's really depressing because people losing their jobs suck. The top three, obviously, are those guys, but people like Emma, a.k.a. Tennille Dashwood, I think she could be a legit positive to any company. She's worked in Impact, had great results. I see her going back there easily. She could even go to AEW and carry out some of that depth. That roster needs a little bit of depth at the top and in the middle. And she's quality. She's a good wrestler. And again, given time, she can also connect with the crowd and come up with a good, interesting angle. And you know what? I don't see... She probably has a history with somebody like Toni Storm, considering they wrestled in Australia for their beginnings. They probably have a background together. They probably would be able to put on great matches together. You know, it's just some of these cuts don't make sense, but at the same time, corporate mergers, corporations got to do the corporation thing, and they're not going to get rid of, well, they did get rid of some executives, which did save them millions, but they're looking at trying to cut costs of billions of dollars. And it's always going to be the little guys who get cut because they can. Any other people got released that you wanted to talk about real quick, Jay?
No, but there was an AEW sort of release with Jade Cargill. We were going to talk about her last week, but it sounds like Jade is not being brought back and is WWE bound. What are your thoughts on Jade leaving? Do you care? Do you think AEW is worse off without Jade? Are you going to watch less because Jade's gone?
All right, so you got a lot of good questions. First and foremost, will I watch less? No. Jade was not a reason I watched to begin with.
Will you watch more?
No, I don't think I could watch more, actually. I'm already pretty much up to the gills with wrestling. And that's a lot of wrestling anyways. Jade Cargill was interesting because when she was brought in, I was like, damn, she's got that star power potential. She's got it. If she works at being a better wrestler, she could be a star. And AEW put a ton of work into her. Gave her an undefeated streak, built a title for her, had her first title run for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And there was a point when I was like, this is legit, she's good. And then she stalled out. The whole thing with the baddies never went anywhere. She never really learned how to connect to the audience in a high-level wrestling way. She didn't tell stories in the ring. She went through moves. You know, she memorized the sets that she was told to do, and then she went in and did it. And thus, I think she will do well in WWE. She truly is a WWE style personality and wrestler. And I think she will legit become a star in WWE. And then come back to AEW and have herself a good title run, because that's what you do in wrestling, is you go out and you build your stock in another company, and then you return back to where you were a bigger star. People did it in WCW, people did it in WWE, people did it in NWA. I don't see a problem with people leaving one company and working at another, and none of the wrestlers do either. Nor should they. Realistically, unless they're an employee of the company like the Bucks, or they have stock in the company, they really shouldn't give a shit about what company they work for, because none of them deserve loyalty because corporations suck ass. I'm sorry. I need to get off that soapbox. The fact is, Jade is potentially a good addition to WWE, and best of luck to her. It's a very difficult environment, and knowing if Vince stays in power, the way his mind thinks, she's coming out as a WNBA basketball player. That's going to be her gimmick. That's going to be her character. She's going to be a basketball player because she's tall, she's black, and I think she played basketball at one point.
I don't know if I see that happening. I'm not convinced Jade. She didn't really have any competitive matches up until her last match against Statlander on Cargo. It was pretty well received.
She had a couple.
I have not seen that last match, but other than that match versus Cargill from a week ago, like all of her matches had really bad ratings, and I personally didn't like any of them. So it's no loss for me. I don't like seeing people brought in and pushed to the moon. I don't like seeing people who come in and don't put anybody over on their run. Like Jade didn't put, and it might not be her call,
right?
But Jade didn't put anyone over
No.
and make anyone look like a credible threat that could beat her. Like it was always mostly a squash, and maybe Taya Valkyrie got closer. I did like Jade's match against Billy Starks, but there was never any chance that Billy Starks was going to win.
You're also biased, and Billy carried her to a fucking good match.
That's right. But it's like if you look at the match times, like none of her matches are more than 10 minutes, like zero. Well, actually, her match against Jade went for 11 minutes, but there's like very few exceptions. Most of them are under 5, and I'm not a big fan of the Goldberg booking, so I won't miss Jade. I wish her well in WWE, and who knows? Maybe she'll come back to AEW someday, and after learning how to fight competitive matches and helping to draw in the crowd with some believable stuff. But that remains to be seen. So I wish her well in WWE.
Her hopes,
but I won't be tuning in to watch her there. Sorry, Jade.
No, I'm not changing channels just to watch her at all. Her hopes were to go to Hollywood. She wants to be Storm. Badly. Very badly. But she wouldn't play a very good Storm, to be quite honest. I've seen her.
Doesn't Storm just basically need to have, like, roll her eyes up in her head and float around and shoot lightning and shit at people? Like, does she do anything else?
I don't personally want to get into it, but Aurora Monroe happens to be an extraordinarily deep character with a very vast and interesting background who could easily be done justice by somebody other than Holly Berry in a terrible wig or Jade Cargill. I think there's an actress out there who could do Storm very, very well. I've been a fan of her since I was a young boy, and I will not hear any bad-mouthing about her.
All right.
She will kick everybody's ass and then set you alight with lightning. So, yeah. She can fight hand-to-hand, by the way. Don't think all she does is float and blow shit up with lightning. You're thinking of one movie.
But could she beat Molecule Man one-on-one?
Well, very few people could, because Molecule Man has the ability to literally adjust reality at the molecular level. So,
when's he getting his movie?
He's probably not, because he's a villain. But he could be brought.
Joker got a movie.
Sure, but that's DC. They're grasping at straws, and they will do anything to make some money. I think if Marvel's going to bring it in, it will be during possibly the Secret Wars, because the history of the comic books, part of the way that Battle World was created was powering it with Molecule Man. So
didn't Molecule? Here's some of my my limited comic book knowledge coming into play. Didn't Molecule Man kill the Beyonder?
Okay, so if you're thinking of the original Secret Wars, which was in the 80s. It was,
that's what I'm talking. That's what I read.
It was Doom who used Claw that he sliced up and used as a focus, like a magnifying glass. And then he did use a little bit of power that he was given or something, and he managed to steal it all from the Beyonder. It was quite an interesting move. And then the very first thing Doom did when he was flushed with the power
let me
of
see
the
if I
Beyonder.
remember. Did he go after Galactus?
No. The very first thing he did was heal his face.
Oh, okay.
And then he actually he used Galactus to go after Beyonder. And he used Claw to go after Galactus because Claw had been running around Galactus's world ship as disembodied sonic energy. And then he got reformed by Doom. Doom studied him, said, I can use this, stole Galactus's power, then used that to steal all of the Beyonder's power. That was the original Secret Wars. Okay. And then he gave a little bit to Claw, who ultimately turned out was hiding part of the Beyonder or whatever. Stole it all back in a moment of weakness or whatever, and then everything was undone because mind games on Doom still work.
All right.
So,
well, back to our regularly scheduled AEW podcast.
Sorry, that thing took a bit of a turn into comic book lore and history.
Was my fault for asking comic book questions, but hey,
you did.
We do a little bit of everything on the Elite Mark Order podcast.
It's true. We are Elite Marks for many different things. I own that Secret Wars comic book, by the way. I bought it when it came out, and I devoured Secret Wars. That was like
Spider-Man.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
Is that number? What number is
that?
I
don't know.
Venom. The first Venom, is it 8?
Are you talking about when he got it in Secret Wars? Yes, that Secret Wars number 8 with the new costume.
Okay,
yes.
That's like all the rest of Secret Wars is cheap, but if you want the one with Venom on the cover, like the first Venom outfit, like that one's bank. That's expensive.
I have that one, and I have the entire run, all 12.
Nice.
I have a big part of Secret Wars 2. That was my prime collecting years in the 80s. That was, man, I got to tell you, Secret Wars, when they say it sold comic books, there was no lie. I was into it. I was like,
it was
man.
awesome. I even liked it. I wasn't a huge, my father was always a huge comic fan. Like his golden age was fucking Spider-Man 1 and shit like
nice,
that. Like and this is the guilt trip he throws on me. He's like, when you were born, I sold all my comic books for $1,000 to help pay for your ass, and those books right now would be worth over $1 million. I'm like, oh well. Thanks for letting me know.
Thanks for making dumb decisions, Dad.
Thanks for telling me that.
No shit.
Thanks for telling me it's my fault you made a bad decision.
Yeah, right, exactly. But no, in the 80s when that stuff was coming out, I picked up the first couple, and it was like they popped out after Secret Wars had happened, and like Spider-Man had the new costume, and Iron Man was like all juiced up, and I was like, what happened during this Secret Wars? And I had to buy all 12. I was sold hard. I believe, have the Spider-Man issue with the first episode where he came back from Secret Wars in the black costume, a remake of Amazing Stories 15, where he's holding the person under his arm in the same pose. So it's that was prime time for me. I love that.
Is it an Amazing Fantasy?
It could have been Amazing Fantasy.
Story?
Could have been Amazing Fantasy. Amazing Stories was an 80s television show by Steven Spielberg, which taught me that if I hold on to my comic books until I'm an old man, it could make me rich.
And it probably could have.
I have all those comic books right in my comic book collection.
Nice. All right, so.
Oh, hey, let's talk about AEW Dynamite. Guess what it opened with?
Let's talk about Grand Slam.
Eddie Kittenston, my buddy, my man, the NJPW Strong Openweight Champion Eddie Kingston versus ROH World Champion Claudio Castagnoli, title for title, both matches on the line, a rivalry and a grudge match, a decade plus in the making. These two hate each other, but they're willing to work together for the betterment of AEW because they're fucking professionals. I loved this match. How could you not? Eddie Kingston channeled the power of the kitten and beat Claudio. Not only did he kick out of a Ricola, but Eddie kicked out of the back fist at least one. There was multiple back fists. There was powerbomb. They fucking worked each other hard. And I will tell you now, I don't do a breakdown move by move, and I'm never going to. But I will tell you, it was an amazing match. Go out of your way to watch it. Eddie finally fucking won. And the crowd was ecstatic. It was New York. There was no way he was losing. It was so good. It was so good. And just the way they booked it, the way that they laid out the match, it just built and built. And the crowd just popped when he won. I was enthralled. It was impossible to look away. I loved that match. Jay, what are your feelings on Eddie Kingston finally winning?
So there was a lot that kind of went into this match for me because of the whole Kawada thing. So Eddie Kingston became a wrestling fan. Well, he watched early WWE, and but the first time he saw a VHS tape of All Japan Pro Wrestling in the 90s, starting in about the mid 90s, was most likely when he first started. The wrestling over there with Misawa, with the four pillars, the original four pillars, with Misawa, Kawada, Taui, and Kobashi, and Jun Akiyama, which we've seen in AEW, was kind of the fifth pillar. Those guys were having. People always say, why doesn't Bret Hart have more 5-star matches? He had all these great, and Shawn Michaels too. They had all these great matches in the 90s. The reason they don't have 5-star matches is because of the matches that were happening in All Japan Pro Wrestling, with the four pillars and with Stan Hansen and with Dr. Death Steve Williams. Those guys were having matches that were so technical and so brutal, with the suplexes and the head drop suplexes, and just the huge moves, doing things that had never been done before, like tiger suplexes off the ramp to the floor. The burning hammer move with Tiger Driver 91s.
Yeah.
All this stuff, the Gonzo bomb that Kawada uses, used a couple times. So, I mean, it just took wrestling to a whole different level, and that is really what got me back involved in wrestling, was the All Japan stuff when I discovered it. I went to an ECW show. I bought some tapes, looking to see I wanted to see some Dr. Death in Japan matches, and I saw that, and I'm like, these fucking guys are like way better than anyone I've ever seen. Like, it's not even close.
Well, here's the thing. They were so good, and I'll let you continue in a second, but that's where the term 5 stars, if it were in the Tokyo Dome, comes from, because they were like, people are putting on these amazing matches, but but by comparison, you have these, and it's impossible to compare to. So that's where that whole idea of in the Tokyo Dome, it would have been 5 stars, because Dave was watching those matches. You were saying,
right? And yeah, and that stuff is just a level beyond of what we were seeing at the time, and not to say that Bret and Shawn and those guys and even Ric Flair weren't having great matches, because they were having good matches for what was presented in the States, but it just didn't compare. It wasn't even close. The style that we have in the U.S. today is largely based on the strong style and King's Road style, as Giant Baba called it, that was developed back then. So,
and lucha,
Eddie Kingston,
lots of lucha.
Yeah, lucha's mixed in as well. So Eddie at Starrcast weekend, or actually, let's jump back. So Eddie was competing in New Japan. He was in the G1 tournament, and while he was in New Japan, someone from New Japan took him to Kawada's restaurant, and so Eddie, they didn't tell Eddie where he was going, and of course Kawada is one of Eddie's idols. Like Kawada's black and yellow, or I'm sorry, Eddie's black and yellow tights are a tribute to Kawada. So they brought Eddie to Kawada's restaurant, which is really the only place you can see Kawada these days. Excuse me one sec.
And by the way, they talked about you were talking about when he was growing up, the Japanese style saved his life. He did that in the Players Report or whatever it's called, where he did that interview. He wrote that article, and Anthony Bowens just did a new article that was almost as good, if not just as, that really covered his background, how he got into it. I thought it was great. So, yeah, I only knew about Japanese Japanese wrestling having that influence on Eddie because of his Players Club or whatever that article was that he wrote, and I know that Misawa and all that added in. I think we lost you.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I'm here.
Sorry,
oh, no problem. So just to frame it up, like Toshiaki Kawada is, and it, it's just hard throwing these names out there if you're not familiar with them. But,
yeah.
Kawada is, I would consider, a strong candidate to be considered the third best wrestler of all time. And I think it's strong, and I'm not sure that there's anybody that I could slot in front of him. And sorry, Kenny Omega. Sorry, well, maybe Okada. It's tough. Okada's kind of working his way in. Will Ospreay too, but Kawada is a strong number 3 right now, and Misawa and Kobashi are 1 and 2. Put them in whichever way you want. So, and if you go to Cage Match, and I'll even look right now, if I go to Cage Match and I go to wrestlers, and I go to, let's see, overview, and I hit, that's not going to do it. These are the late ratings. Come on, wrestlers.
I hear what little audience we have dying.
So that's not going to work right now. Let's see, top list.
So maybe we continue with your story.
Yeah. So if you go to Cage Match right now, Kobashi's number 1 with a 9.75. Misawa's number 2 at a 9.73, and Kawada is number 3 at a 9.71. And it's funny because I mean that's always been my rating. I flip on if Misawa or Kobashi should be 1 or 2, but it's just interesting to see that with 1,000 votes from these Cage Match voters, that those three, that many people agree. But anyhow, so Kawada came to StarCast. Eddie Kingston helped bring him over, and Conrad was able to bring Kawada in. And this was a couple weeks before. Well, actually, 1 week before Grand Slam. And so there was a panel, and I'm going to do a video on it. There was hopefully next week sometime I'm going to be able to put together a video on this because I think the wrestling community can appreciate it. So Kawada and Eddie were talking about the moves that Eddie uses, and Eddie's like, well, I use a Northern Lights bomb, which was Kensuke Sasuke's finisher. And Kawada replied, I don't have any respect for any man or woman who uses a Northern Lights power bomb. And Eddie was just like, well, what the fuck? He's like, you just dissed my finishing move. And then Eddie replied, he's like, well, what should I use? And Kawada said, you should use the power bomb. Like, Kawada's finisher was a power bomb where he then folded the opponent over for the pin.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie's like, all right, I promise I'll use the folding power bomb in my next match. And Eddie didn't use it at All Out, which was his next match. However, at All In, Eddie gave Claudio the Northern Lights bomb. Claudio kicked out, and I was like, holy fuck, it's going to happen. And Eddie picked up Claudio, and he gave him, not the best folding power bomb, but he gave him a folding power bomb as a Kawada tribute, and won. And I was just bonkers. Like, it was just amazing to see a wrestler who above all odds, like Eddie Kingston is not the typical guy that you think is gonna win the heavyweight title for a promotion, and who's such a fan and does so many tributes to the 4 pillars, come in and then bring Kawada over, and then for that to happen, it was it's pretty high up, and I think for me on my list of the coolest shit that's ever happened in wrestling. So it was a very awesome moment, and I was kind of long-winded with that, but it was fucking outstanding. So it was just great to see that tribute to Kawada. So it was awesome. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Okay, and you know what? The fact is, it was an amazing match. It was a great match. Eddie deserved it. He showed he is world championship material. ROH world champion is a great place because he spent so much time there. Claudio going over, or putting Eddie over. Eddie getting that win under the ROH banner against Claudio. There's so much full circle storytelling for those of us who know it. And they told us a little about it during the match. I love the fact that they had Ian Riccoboni out. He's fantastic. I wish he were on Collision more. Kevin Kelly is less impressive to me. When Ian covered, he was just that much better. He played off of Nigel McGuinness. He played off him very well. And Kevin Kelly he sounds like Michael Cole. Too much.
Yeah. I'm not a Kevin Kelly fan. I like Ian. I think Ian's outstanding.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the better announcers. Kelly is he's formulaic. I hate the way he calls finishers. It sounds forced and contrived. It doesn't sound like he's actually excited about the match.
Yeah.
Which is a step above JR, who doesn't know what any of the fucking finishers are called anymore. But, so yeah, let's go with Ian. Let's get rid of Kevin Kelly and move on.
Yeah. The fact is, Ian brings quite a bit to his announcing, and yes, his emotional level, his storytelling. He knows his shit in ROH, and he knows his shit in general. He could be a great commentator anywhere. I think Kevin could go back to New Japan and have a great career, and let's just bring Ian up to Collision, because I'm watching Collision regardless of who the announcers are, but I liked Ian so much more, I just would enjoy the program. And JR, he's salty. Man, that dude is salty right now. Why is everything golden? He's just not. I don't know if he enjoys the product anymore.
He doesn't.
I really don't.
He doesn't. He's just doing the bare minimum to get a paycheck, and that's why he's basically lost his job. He's on the way out. And I was a JR defender until recently, when his ignorance and his inability to do basic research on the guys whose matches he's calling, it's a choice. It's not because he's old or because he's recovering from his melanoma radiation stuff. It's a choice not to get to watch the product. It's a choice not to read a 10 fucking minute article on Ibushi and Kenny. He's just fucking choosing to not push the guys he doesn't like because they're not Stone Cold in The Rock, and he's just grabbing a paycheck at this point. So
he used to work in New Japan. He's got to know who these people are. He used to be a New Japan announcer. I've watched him.
JR?
Yeah.
JR was?
He's worked in Japan,
no.
that's for damn sure. He worked in Japan at least.
He did call some New Japan matches, but he had no fucking idea what was going on. So,
okay.
Which was fine back then. Because it's like, bring in JR and have him call the match. He didn't know which Jackson was. He didn't know he couldn't tell the Young Bucks apart. He didn't know what any of the moves were called, and so he was just kind of along for the ride. But it was fine. Because like, oh hey, if JR wants to come over and learn this shit and get involved but that's fine. But now that he's been employed in AEW for 4 years and he doesn't know who Kota Ibushi is, go fuck yourself. So
don't sugarcoat it. What do you really feel? All right. Well, let's move on. All hail Eddie Kittenston, double champion, New Japan and AEW or ROH double champion. I'd like to see more of him on TV. If nothing else, he'll get his ROH matches in each and every however often Ring of Honor has their show. Is it weekly? Do you watch it?
Which show?
Ring of Honor.
I don't watch ROH every week, no.
It is weekly, though.
That I'm not even sure of.
See, there you go.
I have ROH Club, but I only watch specific matches, so I don't know how often.
Well, there it is.
It's like one week you'll have a really fucking good card, and then the next week, like next week's show is like fucking awful. So, yeah, it depends if they're pushing the younger people or just giving guys who are it's every Thursday. Gumby said. So.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Super Gumby, the reigning champion over in the AEW Discord for predictions. So,
Forteller, 2-time champion.
That's right. He is fantastic at that. Yes, not for long. That's true, Super Gumby. There are people who are looking at the championship who are in this room right now who are currently in number 1 for fortune telling in AEW. We just started.
Number 1?
Yeah. We just
right.
I'm there's 3 of us and I'm still number 1. And it's just started, so we have a long way to go. I have lots of opportunity to fall on my ass and mispredict. Nobody guessed Phoenix winning because nobody knew it was going to happen till 3 seconds before it happened. Not even John Moxley knew it was going to happen till he told the ref, no, fucking count it, I promise you. What a weird match. We'll get into that. Definitely going to get into that one. So after Eddie wins, they go to one of the best segments, which is backstage, and not backstage, probably filmed backstage, but it's footage of the Kingdom with Roddy Strong, who's in the hospital. It's a great back and forth with the Kingdom. They've got the cards, the get well stuff. They tell the nurse, no, nurse, we'll take it from here because they know better. You know, it's really kind of funny stuff. And then in comes Adam. Hey man, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I came as fast as I could. The Kingdom, start playing off it. They leave. And then Adam's like, yeah, I gotta go. Sorry. And he bolts. And Roddy's like, Adam, it's building. This is great storyline. I thought it was funny. And then Roddy goes back down. Brrr, just go. Brrr. He's playing to a hilt this character, and it's adding so much entertainment. It is so much fun right now. I love that backstage segment. It's building up. What do you think of Roddy?
I don't know. It's dragging on a bit. I thought it was kind of funny. It added to the suspense of the main event between Joe and MJF, but I don't know. Let's get to it. Let's get moving on with whatever's going to happen here.
Okay. You think it's dragging. Fair enough.
I do, yeah.
So, speaking of not dragging, we move on to the next segment, which is Christian Cage, where he basically challenged Darby to a 3-way match, which will be a handicap, clearly. But he Christian's entire, when we defend this belt, that whole thing, that whole gimmick is paying off. It's starting to get over. When he said the 3-way match, he's like, a 3-way match. He's just really got that down. It's going to be a fun match. Luchasaurus is probably still going to retain. There's virtually no chance Jungle Boy wins, but it should be fun. Not Jungle Boy. Darby Allin. There should be no way Darby wins, but I guess we'll see. Any thoughts on Christian?
No, I mean it's just more of the same. So yeah, it was just really more focused on the matches at Grand Slam.
Speaking of match, we have Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, who had their final friendship match, which was quite interesting. Sammy Guevara had somebody sing him down, which I thought was a bit of a moment, a bit too much for Sammy, but okay. He got, by the way, the sound again had issues. I hate the sound guy at AEW. Dude needs to get some improvement. It's not consistent. It's like the 3-2-1 take 23 from last week. It's just, come on, get it together. I thought Jericho and Sammy had a good match. Good back and forth. I seriously thought Sammy was going to win because him going over made more sense, but the ending came around, Jericho got the pin. There was a lot of it was a shooting star press into a code breaker, and it was done very well. It's a dangerous ass move. I thought it was crazy. They pulled it off. Good on them. Jericho afterwards, gets kicked in the balls, and Sammy Guevara, he ends up joining Don Callis. I think that's a good thing for Sammy. Again, Don Callis' family grows. Let's see where things go. I know you posted a comparison with the Shawn Michaels match. Why don't you go ahead and give us a breakdown of what that comparison is in this match?
The Sammy Jericho match is pretty good. I enjoyed the match. I thought it was rated. Meltzer gave it a 4.25 stars, and I thought that was a pretty good rating for a Jericho match. There were some call outs to Sammy wearing the same colors that Jericho wore at WrestleMania 19 20 years ago, when he turned on Shawn Michaels after the match and kicked Shawn Michaels in the match. And if you compare the ending of Grand Slam with Sammy kicking Jericho, and if you compare that to Jericho kicking Shawn Michaels in the groin, it's almost frame by frame. It's almost the exact same thing that happened. So I thought that was a pretty wild, a good tribute to a moment in Jericho's career. Mm-hmm. It just shows how vested Jericho is in Sammy, and Sammy likewise. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see where the partnership between these two guys go. Sammy runs off with Don Callis. He doesn't get the big win we were expecting, but he didn't need it because the heel turn and the thing with Callis makes up for it. Yeah. And then there was what I thought was very memorable, was the scene with Daniel Garcia, where Garcia and Sammy looked like they were going to start fighting, and Callis was like, no, don't mess with that guy. That guy is money. So I think we might see Sammy and Garcia teaming up in the future, working for Callis, and I would like that. I liked their tag team. I thought those guys worked pretty well together. They were funny. There was a lot of great talent in the ring. A good young tag team. Two guys that still have a lot of potential. So I was pretty happy with it.
Well, they had their tag match, and they were extremely entertaining. They did a lot of good stuff. They do have similar-ish styles, as they're both young, athletic 2023 wrestlers. So the dives and the high-flying stuff. Garcia has that wrestling background, so he's got the ground and pound. And I thought they learned a ton under Jericho. I think they'll learn a ton under Callis, and I think they could be a legit tag title contender as the new fresh team under Callis, with Takeshita going after a singles title, or whatever they decide to do with the Callis family. So yeah, I thought it was a good ending, that Sammy did need the win, but the way they played it out with Callis, he doesn't need the win, because joining Don Callis gets him a ton of heat back. The ball shot, the historical replay, which, by the way, if you want to check out, the link is in our Discord. Go to elitemarkorder.com, click on Join the Discord, and come check out all of the behind-the-scenes little fun stuff that we find out to bring you these quality shows. Anyways, so the next segment, anything else that you want to say about Jericho and Mr. Samuel Garcia, the soon-to-be new father?
That's right. Sammy is going to be going out soon for paternity leave. So,
yeah, you're probably going to get a few weeks, but we'll see how long that is, because his wife is also a wrestler and will probably be backstage very quickly. Now, I don't expect her to come back fast, because that's a very difficult thing to do, even if your name is Becky Lynch. So hopefully Tay takes as much time as she needs, gets in shape, and comes back as a badass. They had a tape segment with MJF calling out Samoa Joe for later tonight. They had the part where Cole gets a call from Roddy, and MJF's like, hey, are you going to be there for me? Cole's like, yes. We'll see how that plays out later in the show, but Cole going back and forth between the two seems to be a bit of the focus of where this championship story is going.
Yeah, and then after that, we move into Phoenix stage diving onto Moxley, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, let's talk about the International Championship match with John Moxley against Rey Fenix. We knew it was going to be a good match. This, by the way, from the initial get-go, I had a weird feeling about this match. I was like, there's something strange, there's something off. I don't know what it is. Apparently,
there's something happening here.
What it is?
Throwback to last week.
Yeah, what it is ain't exactly clear, that's for sure. It started with Moxley not coming through the crowd. He came down the ramp. And he stopped on the, which, by the way, they got to get rid of that fucking ramp. That was a bad idea. He took off his shirt, he laid down the title, and he stood on the ramp. And I'm like, that's the weirdest Moxley start I've ever seen. So then Rey Fenix came out. Bell hasn't rung. They're doing their outside brawl. I'm like, okay, cool. Phoenix does this dive over the cameraman into Moxley, and that is where Moxley gets his concussion. And you can tell because he's really moving bad. He's off. He's slow. He's like, I don't know what's wrong. Then, later in the match, he seems to collect himself. He's moving. He's rocking. I'm like, was he just selling earlier? And then we had the finish, where Bryce Ramsden, or whatever his name is, Remsburg, decided...
No, it was Chris Knox. Or Rick Knox.
Was it Rick Knox?
It was Rick
I thought
Knox,
it was Remsburg.
Nope.
Decided, for whatever reason, he wasn't going to count 3, even though John Moxley did not move at all. And God, commentary tried to cover it. Oh, I think he twitched some. No, he did not twitch. They hit another move and he got the pin. But damn, it was the dive over the cameraman that got John Moxley hurt. He finished the match because he's a tough man, but he shouldn't have that match. That was a tough match. And they still did a bunch of moves. It was still entertaining. And Rey Fenix gets his first singles title, which is fantastic. But God, it went down the wrong way.
Yeah, I thought the match was excellent, even though Mox was possibly concussed the entire match after taking that stage dive. As far as the ramp goes, I mean, they have a bunch of sets. Like the collision ramp, the collision set has a ramp or a walkway going out to the ring. I'm not sure what's different about the Grand Slam one than the collision ramp. But I don't know. It's just crazy that we had 2 wrestlers get hurt on it. Mm-hmm. If you look at the 2 pile drivers that Phoenix gave Mox at the end of the match, the second one was pretty vicious. It was one of the sicker looking pile drivers I think I've ever seen, and a lot of people thought that Mox got hurt on that second pile driver, but he was already hurt. We know now he was already hurt, and that was obvious. With the ref counting 3 or refusing to count 3. It seems like Wrestling Observer is reporting that Moxley was supposed to win the match, but he called an audible to change the finish because he was hurt.
That's what it looked like to me.
I'm not sure if I buy that. I mean, was Mox really that messed up? He couldn't have put Phoenix in a choke, and Phoenix could have just tapped out. I mean, he uses the bulldog choke. So it would have not been a stretch at any means if Mox just grabbed that choke and knocked him out.
Here's the thing. Here's what he's thinking. He guaranteed this is the reason. No fucking way am I going to deal with another interim championship. I'm not going to do that to the title. I'm not going to do that to Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix is going to get a title run. I'm going to take time off. Now, he's booked for this week's Dynamite. I don't
think he'll be on.
I don't think he's going to do anything physical. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to show up. I think they're going to give him at least a week off. And I think Rey Fenix, no matter how he's booked, deserves to have a title run. And John Moxley in his brain knew, fuck, I can't wrestle and defend this title correctly. I have to lose. That's a ballsy fucking thing to do. And to know, you know what? The ref is going to do what I say because I'm John fucking Moxley. And he told Phoenix, hit me again, and they did the count. I don't think Ray Phoenix's pile drivers were an issue at all. I think he was just as safe as you could be in that moment. We know
that last one, man. I don't know. You could kind of see the skin on the back moving where the spinal cord is. It was pretty rough.
Okay, well,
I don't know.
I didn't do an analysis. I didn't do an analysis like Stevie Rogers or Stevie.
I posted slow-mos of it in the chat.
Stevie Richard, but yeah, no, you did. I didn't watch it, but I do have to say that it was horrific that it happened because John Moxley doesn't deserve to get hurt. Nobody does. It was terrible. He was a man. He finished it, which, by the way, when you tear a pec and finish, you get applauded. When you tear a quad and finish, you get applauded. But we all know head injuries are different.
Yeah. A
lot different. So, John Moxley finishes the match. Ray Phoenix is the champion. Good on him. Give him something. I really hope he doesn't get a nothing match. A nothing title reign. Give him the opportunity to just run with it. Maybe go down to Mexico where he lives, because that's the reason why they realistically, the reason why the international championship wasn't really ever defended internationally is because Orange Cassidy lives in the United States. Ray Phoenix, I believe, still lives in Mexico, could do international title defenses in Mexico. CMLL, AAA, whichever one's working with AEW.
Orange could have traveled if he wanted to. And Phoenix missed All In because he was working on his residency requirements. So I don't know that Phoenix can go to Mexico right now.
Fine.
So
fine. Bring up facts. Bring up facts and information to counter me. Fine. See if I care. No, but I don't know. I don't fucking know.
So yeah. So I don't know. I still find it. I thought it was weird that Mox beat Cassidy. I thought it was a horrible move.
I thought it could have dealt somebody better. I think somebody
didn't make and Moxley didn't need the boost.
No,
So Moxley has had this was his second clean loss in AEW in a singles match. There was Punk and now there's Phoenix, and this one's not even clean because he was concussed. So I wouldn't consider that a clean loss. So yeah, and it was just like, I'm glad Mox did lose the belt because I didn't want to see Mox choke, guys out every week that had no chance of beating him. So Phoenix is much more interesting. Phoenix is more on the OC level, where you're not sure he's going to win every week, especially because Phoenix hasn't been winning a lot of singles matches. So it makes these title defenses more meaningful and more interesting than if Mox just goes out there, cuts himself, and then chokes the guy out every week. So I'm happy with the switch. I hope Mox is okay. He could be back in a week. He could be back in a month. I don't think it's any more severe than that. It wasn't reminiscent of when Adam Cole was down after All Out a couple years ago against Okada and Jay White. Like, you knew Adam Cole was in trouble and he was out for 6 months. It doesn't seem like with Mox this is as severe. So hopefully he's back soon, but I'm looking forward to Phoenix defending the title.
Yeah, he left under his own power, which is always a great sign. Super Gumby from the chat says that he's expecting that Mox is going to miss some time. And I agree. And Lawyer Scott agrees. He's got a concussion. He's got to miss a little bit of time. And his loss, Moxley's loss, wasn't to boost Moxley. It was to boost the international title. And that loss helps the title. There's no question about that. So, he protected the company. He protected the person he was with, where it only helps Ray Phoenix holding the title, hopefully. He protected the belt, the integrity of kayfabe. He made the right choice, ultimately. Unfortunately, the ref was not informed, and he didn't make the count the way he should have because he knew the match was not supposed to end that way. And Mox forgot to tell him because he was fucking concussed. So, anyways, the fact is, it was a good match. Ultimately, with a concussed Jon Moxley, Rey Fenix wins. Let's hopefully see a good reign. Let's make lemonade from these lemons. So, apparently, there's a World Tag Team Championship contenders match going on Rampage right now, or at least tonight, which will be determined for, of course, MJF and Adam Cole. Is that now thrown into turmoil? We'll see. The next match, however, was Toni Storm against Saraya, the champion. Now, this was ultimately the end of what was the Outcasts. Toni Storm had a brand new entrance, black and white, slow-mo, brilliant. I love it. Toni Storm's new character is probably the best thing in AEW women's wrestling by far, if ever. Britt's pretty good. She's had some good runs, some popularity. This new character for Toni Storm, plus she's got a great catchphrase. Chin up, tits out, watch for the shoe. Come on, that's a winner. So, nobody really expected her to win against Saraya, and she didn't. But it was a good match. It was a good story, and Toni Storm's new character was definitely getting development in the match. What were your thoughts, Jay?
I thought the pop that Storm got after kicking out of one of Saraya's moves, I don't remember what move it was possibly the loudest of the night. So the crowd is definitely invested into Toni Storm.
Yeah.
And this character switch was kind of surprising to me because, at first it just seemed kind of stupid, but she's doing it well. It's over. And I see Toni Storm possibly winning the title from Saraya at a pay-per-view back and the crowd going bonkers for her. So I hope she can keep it up.
Well, there's no doubt that Toni Storm deserves a title soon. This character
she just lost it. Yeah, they
Doesn't
just
matter.
took the title from her. She lost it to Shida because the fucking women's division with her as champ wasn't working. So, but now that she has a new gimmick and she's out of the Outcasts, now there's the potential for this to work with the fans. And I hope I hope that she can keep the momentum going
and have a good story. That's what I'm looking for out of the women's division. Have a story. Right now it's Toni Storm and the Outcasts. That is a story. Will they continue it? I don't know. But yeah, there was a kick out from Saraya's Rampage or Saturday Night Lights Out or whatever they're calling it. There was a kick out from Storm Zero. There was what's known as lesbian pollen. That's a term I hadn't heard before, but it has to do in WWE where it was solidified, and they used it last on Dynamite, where a woman will kiss another woman to gain the advantage. That's it. Lesbian pollen. It stuns the other person, or sometimes they'll just, like the HLA or the single white female stalker with Mickie James back in the day, with Trish Stratus. Any of that is apparently known as lesbian pollen. I didn't know that was a thing, but they used it in this match. Toni Storm kissing Saraya, hitting the Storm Zero, almost getting the pin. I thought for sure she was going to win. She didn't. I bit hard. I seriously thought she was going to win. I was hoping really something fierce. But she didn't. Saraya won as expected. Not really, but we really kind of did. Who's next for Saraya? If it's not Toni Storm, they don't continue this with her. What do they do with her now that she's champion?
Billy Starks.
There you go. Bring in Billy Starks. That would be it. There you go. Billy Starks getting immediate push in championship matches. You don't think people would get a little ranked, a little rankle, little upset, little hackles up on that one?
Well, maybe if they worked as hard as Billy did, they'd have a legitimate gripe behind their concern.
Shots
Because
fired.
Billy's been working harder than all of them, so they can go fuck themselves.
Oh, shots fired. Well, we know that Lawyer Scott loves Billy Starks. We know you love Billy Starks. I'm a big fan of Billy Starks. I wish we could get her on the show, but she's way too busy. That girl is way too busy.
Well, she's been taking it easy since she signed with AEW. Of course, she's getting over an injury. She was supposed to compete at All Out and was unable to.
Yeah.
So hopefully, whatever's ailing her is healed up. I'm hoping it's not her back. Billy did some really stupid spots. I don't think I ever posted it because I had no. I just didn't really think that it needed to be publicized any more than it was. But Billy did a spot where she put a guy on a chair outside the ring, climbed to the top rope, and jumped to do I don't even know what you would call it, a senton off the top rope to the floor to the guy sitting in the chair. And the guy just moved. Yeah. So she basically senton the chair and plops onto the ground, onto the chair, onto the ground, and she's just sitting there holding her back. And it seems like she's had some back issues since that happened. I don't know for sure if that's what caused them, but she has had some back troubles, and I haven't seen anything so irresponsible out of her since then. But yeah, hopefully there's nothing serious going on there, and she'll be able to start fighting her 100 matches a year again. So,
well, she doesn't have to be Darby Allin. That's all I'm saying.
No, she definitely doesn't.
She has her own abilities, and she doesn't have to be a daredevil. So
she has a lot of tools, and hopefully she can start fighting again in ROH soon. I like her little thing with Athena right now as one of the minions. We'll see where.
Yeah, her ROH stuff that you posted about, come on, minion, I'm not a minion. That stuff's gold. Athena is doing so well with the ROH run. So, yeah, super interested to see how Billy Starks develops. By the way, Lawyer Scott said they think they're young kids think they're indestructible. It actually goes with that age. They literally cannot comprehend dying. It's part of the brain's developmental cycle. It's weird, but it's a real thing. And by the way, Lawyer Scott, use your connections. Get us an interview with Billy Starks. We know you. We know you have them. Use those connections. No.
No. From school.
But yeah, let's move on. The final match of the night. She did graduate. Yes, that's true. No longer is she associated. But the fact of the matter is, there's a chain. There's 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon style. Get the word out through the underground. You can do it. I swear. MJF versus Samoa Joe. What can you say about that match? First and foremost, MJF swore that he was going to choke Joe out. He swore it. He's our scumbag. He's gonna do it, right? And there was the question of what's going to happen with Adam Cole. So you had Samoa Joe, who is a fantastic wrestler and has been for decades, has the story with MJF. MJF being MJF, of course it was a great match. He sold his neck. He sold his back. He did everything. He kept going for the choke. He kept going. He did the Andre spot from Princess Bride where he's on Samoa's back and Samoa Joe just backs up into the corner. It's just great match storytelling. I had a fun time. I knew eventually it would work. He got the ring at one point and he got caught with it. And then he did the choke spot where he used wrapping from his hand, got it around Joe's neck, choked him out, got the win, hit it under his arm. But this time, when the ref raised his arm and it popped out, MJF grabbed him and Adam Cole covered. Now, speaking of Adam Cole, during the match, He comes out towards the end, comes out to help MJF, does a full run, jumps off the stage, lands, and rolls his ankle. I don't know how bad it is. We don't know how bad it is. But he had enough adrenaline to get around the ring, hobbling a little bit, did the finish, got in the ring, sold it the way it's supposed to be, and then immediately went to the hospital and came out on crutches. How bad is it? Don't know. Have you heard anything? Have you any ideas or thoughts about this match?
I haven't heard anything. I looked earlier today. I didn't see anything. Brian Alvarez said in his podcast, "No news is bad news with injuries in wrestling." So,
yeah.
Adam Cole might be out for a while. We wait the Renegades, whoever, against them at the New Japan pay-per-view, Wrestle Dream. So maybe MJF will fight a singles match. Maybe he won't fight at all. Maybe someone will substitute for MJF against the Renegades. I don't even know if I'm saying that team right.
You mean the Outlaw? Who Renegades? Those are girls. The Renegade twins.
Gumby or yeah, that's right. Gumby or Scott should know.
At Wrestle Dream? What?
No, they beat the Hardys last week on Dynamite.
Oh!
Those ROH guys.
Yeah, they were brothers. They were the new cult thing. I don't know. Gumby knows. He's got to know.
Gumby knows. I think
gotta
they're
know.
awful. I think those guys are awful. I was pissed they beat the Hardys.
Really? I totally knew they were going to win.
Clowns. I was like, the Hardys got.
Oh, the Righteous Brothers, or the Righteous.
Righteous Brothers, yeah.
the natural righteous, or whatever the fuck it is.
The Righteous Brothers, yeah. So the Righteous Brothers are.
They're the ones.
They may not get their shot. Fuck, let MJF have a handicap match against those two clowns.
And win, yeah.
So, yeah.
So obviously MJF wins the match. Joe puts him over. Of course he does. He had a great match. He was dominant. They had the when MJF went for the kangaroo kick, the fucking place blew up. It was amazing how all he did was hold his hands up and they just stood up and like, yeah! He is so over. It is fucking impossible to imagine just a year ago that he's a face and is beloved. It's just crazy.
You saw it like on AEW Dynamite episode 2 when MJF was cornering Cody and teaming with Cody.
Yeah.
MJF came running out to save the Elite when they were getting their asses kicked by, the Inner Circle, and you just saw it's like the crowd was going crazy, and then MJF kind of did the Hogan taunt, like pulling his ear, and then doing like the cry face to the crowd, and it's just like, you just knew that this guy is on a whole different level. The way he interacts with the crowd. Every week he continues to impress, and it's just great seeing him having a solid face run. You knew he could do it, and I'm glad Tony's letting him continue to do it. I hope he keeps letting him go on as a face, because it's a lot fucking harder to be a face than it is a heel. So you would be stupid to turn MJF heel again right now.
No,
anybody can be a heel. Anyone can be a dick, but it's tough to find someone who can
legit
interact and own the crowd like MJF does.
He legit knows how to work an audience. There's no question. As a face, he's become believable. He had to have the journey because he was such a vicious, hated heel that they had to literally do it for weeks on end for it to be. He couldn't have done a run down and save someone and suddenly he's a face. That would never have flown. Everybody would have called it as no way. It's fake. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, he'd have turned because nobody would have believed it. It's brilliant, and I'm not sure who came up with it, but it fucking worked. He was able to turn face, and people now embrace him, no matter the fact that he still does the exact same tactics. He's our scumbag. He's a face that acts like a heel, just like Steve Austin, just like the best, who were so good at what they did, it didn't matter. The fans made them turn face. And MJF worked hard to stay heel. But I think he deserves his accolades and deserves the merch sales, deserves the catchphrases. And I just hope that this Adam Cole injury doesn't take out all of the magic, because it was working. He and Adam Cole were fantastic, but you know what? As a solo, he's fine. He'll be great. I just thought, man, Adam Cole is turning fragile. He really is. And that ramp is fucking cursed. Got to get rid of that fucker.
It is. It's too bad Cole got hurt. I hope that he's not out too long. I don't think Cole needs to be active for this to work. I don't think it matters if you pull the tag titles off MJF and Cole, because Cole's hurt. So what? Move on. Put the tag titles back on ROH. MJF and Cole can, when Cole's healthy, can go for the AEW tag. Maybe they can go after FTR again, which would be more entertaining than them against any ROH team. So, yeah, I hope. Just looking at MJF and his success, like, I mean, I think we as fans, the AEW fans, know that MJF is incredible, and just the way he works the AEW crowd it's like there's no one you can compare it to.
There isn't.
Like, I mean, Punk was on the level where was in a similar level, on a similar tier. I don't think he was as good as MJF, but Punk was on a similar level. However, MJF's ratings for his shows seem to be capped out at around 850, 900,000. So I think MJF needs something to for more people to be aware of him. Like, he needs to do something on the pop culture side. He needs to do something to rein in fans from other promotions like New Japan, to get that number back up where it was when Kenny Omega was champ. And I know there's fewer cable homes, than there back now than there were then. It's down by 600,000 subscribers or whatever it is, or 4 million subscribers actually. But there's still 70 million subscribers, so I think there's stuff they can do they need to focus on helping getting MJF's exposure outside of AEW to bring more people in from the outside to experience his legacy.
Well, we've now seen Daniel Garcia's dance break into pop
still
culture.
There, Scott, or did we lose you?
I'm still here. Hello? Oh, crap.
Apparently that was such a mind-boggling take that Scott is not even sure how to handle.
What happened? Son of a biscuit.
So, I'm not sure. We may have lost Scott, so I'm going to go ahead and close out. Join our Discord, subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch our videos, and I'm hoping to get a video out this week about Kawada and Eddie Kingston, which I know all the elite marks can't wait to see. So JJ for life, everybody. Thank you.